Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 raised more questions than it answered, which makes sense since it was only the first chapter of many. But what it has led to is many fans have burning questions that we just need to be answered. So in today's video, I'm going to go over some of the main things that we need to know in chapters 2 and beyond. These are just a fraction of the things that I want to find out answers for. After all, there is nothing worse than when a game raises a question and doesn't satisfyingly answer it. So here are 5 things fans just need to know in chapters 2 and beyond. Number 1. Who wrote the graffiti? When Huggy chases the player through the service areas, you can see graffiti sprawled across the walls here. There's quite a lot of it, and there's a lot of different messages sprawled in here. But one thing I really want to know is who wrote these messages. The only name we can see is Elliot, which probably refers to Elliot Ludwig, the creator of Playtime Co. Why somebody thinks he's still important is beyond me. Perhaps he's still alive, perhaps it was him who wrote the messages, or perhaps this person has some sort of grudge against him. Or maybe even he is the key to solving all of this. Either way, these messages being written here where Huggy has free reign is very interesting to me. Is it possible that even Huggy wrote these? Maybe, although I don't really think he's more of the writing type. We also see messages talking about starving, so whoever wrote these was clearly very hungry, which could be the staff members. The only person we know that doesn't need to eat is Experiment 1006, and as we'll talk about later on in this video, we don't actually know who that is yet. So someone was clearly starving at the time when they wrote this. Could it be the staff members? Are they still alive? I'm not sure, but I hope we find out in future chapters. Number 2. Is Poppy good or bad? This one is very interesting, and it only came to my mind at the end of chapter 1 when we opened Poppy's case. Some people have theorized that Poppy is actually evil, that this entire thing was all part of her plan. And that could make sense since the game is called Poppy Playtime. She's a very important character and it appears like the game revolves around her. Poppy was, after all, the magnum opus of Playtime Co. She was the most realistic doll ever and probably one of the best selling. But this Poppy is special. We know that she is a real girl, as she says in the trailer, and it's clear that something happened to her. It's clear that there was some sort of experiment. We know that she has this voice box covered in blood, and everything at the moment points towards the fact that people are being transferred into dolls, or the dolls are being brought to life somehow. While I have my own theories about what's going on, all we can say for sure is that there is something very dark and disturbing happening with Poppy. But we still don't know whether she's good or bad. At the end of chapter 1 when you open the case, she seems very shocked.
You opened my case.
Which was very surprising to me. At the beginning of the game, the player gets this letter which looks like it was written by Poppy. It has a Poppy symbol on it, which is Poppy's call sign, and it seems to be written by a child, and Poppy does seem to behave like a child. Even though that might not be the case, Poppy does seem to be very childlike. So if Poppy did invite the protagonist to the factory, why would she be surprised that the protagonist got there? Maybe she's just surprised that the protagonist survived Huggy, or maybe she didn't write it at all. Maybe Poppy isn't as bad as we thought, maybe she is a victim in all of this. It's not quite clear yet whether Poppy's going to be an ally, or whether we're just going to be part of her playtime. Number 3. Who is Experiment 1006? This one has been hotly debated down in my comment section, and I'm sure it's been debated across the internet as well. And that is exactly who is Experiment 1006. Experiment 1006 has been talked about a couple of times, both in the trailer for the game and also in the VHS tape, the final VHS tape where the scientist reveals that there was experiments going on here. We only know snippets of information about Experiment 1006, but we do know that A, they don't need to eat, they don't need any sustenance, which would make sense if they are a doll, but also when the protagonist dies, you have a very small chance of seeing this death screen where it says Experiment 1006, isn't he wonderful? So pretty much all we know about Experiment 1006 is that he is male and he doesn't really need to eat. Now this does point towards 1006 being Huggy Wuggy, and most people I think believe that Experiment 1006 is referring to Huggy Wuggy. It seems like Experiment 1006 is a renegade of sorts. It seems like the experiment didn't fully work, and something about that experiment caused something to go wrong in this factory. Which again would make sense with Huggy Wuggy, since he's very aggressive and seems to kill people and dolls for almost no reason. Seems like he does it just for fun, and maybe that was what happened in the factory. He got loose, started killing people, And that's why all the staff members disappeared, although as I've said in previous videos, I still think the staff members were turned into toys. But what if Experiment 1006 isn't Huggy Wuggy? I've said this in previous videos in my previous theory, but what if Experiment 1006 is the protagonist? This would be a huge Bioshock level twist, and I really wouldn't put it past the studio at this point. The studio has made such mystery with this game, now even coming out with an ARG. If you haven't seen that, check the link down in the description below. The game is clearly setting up a mystery that it wants players to solve. And what a big twist would that be if all along we were the missing experiment? After all, I've pointed out a few different reasons why I think the player or the protagonist is a doll, and that could really line up with them being Experiment 1006. I'm not going to cover all of that theory in this video as I've already covered in a previous video, but check out the links down in the description below if you want to check out my theory on why we, the player, could be Experiment 1006. Either way, I really hope we figure this out. I hope the game is explicit and tells us exactly who Experiment 1006 is, and I really hope we get some insight into the experiments that went on here. I really hope they don't keep this information from us. I really hope that we eventually get into the innovation wing and actually figure out what happened to all the staff members and why they all went missing. I think that is something that I really want to know, and I'm sure that fans do too. Number 4, who or what is behind the door? And yes, I'm aware that rhymed. One of the biggest questions I had after playing Chapter 1 for the first time was what is behind this door and why is it barricaded? In the final area just before you meet Poppy, we see this area that looks almost like a giant dollhouse, which is interesting because there is a dollhouse in this room and this room feels like a dollhouse. I think that was supposed to be some sort of ironic metaphor for the game. Maybe I'll cover that in a different video. But either way, there was this door that was barricaded. Somebody had shoved this wardrobe in front, and I was very, very keen to find out who or what was behind it. Was somebody trying to keep somebody out or keep somebody in? Was it the staff members, or after watching the Chapter 2 trailer, was it Mother? We now know that this door is going to be opened in Chapter 2. The Chapter 2 teaser trailer shows this door opening very slowly. So we are probably going to find out who or what is behind it. Like I said, it could be Mother. Who that is, I don't know. Could be Kissy Missy, could be Stella Graber, or it could be somebody else entirely. But either way, why does somebody want to keep them out? Is Mother dangerous? Is Mother another doll, just like Huggy Wuggy? I'm not sure, but I'm very, very excited to find out what happens when we go through this door. Number 1, what exactly happened to the staff? Now, I'm pretty sure everybody has their own theory about what happened to the staff members in this factory, and there is a very common theory that I came up with on my first playthrough that most people also seem to believe in. So at the beginning of the game, we find out that 10 years ago, all of the staff members in this factory disappeared completely, and we supposedly are an ex-employee, although as I've said before, we're not entirely sure what ex-employee means. Does that mean we just used to work in the factory, or does that mean we used to be an ex-employee and now we're a doll? But either way, this ex-employee has come back to the factory and found it completely abandoned aside from, at the moment, Huggy Wuggy and Poppy. So where did all the staff go? What happened to them? Most people believe they were turned into toys, and I think this too. I think that the people in this factory were transformed into toys, and I do think the make-a-friend machine was key to this process. My personal theory is that Huggy Wuggy started to stuff people into the make-a-friend machine, and the make-a-friend machine just saw these people as parts and started to assemble them into toys, as that's what it was programmed to do, and it couldn't differentiate between a human and a doll part. That's my theory so far, and I think that's probably the most solid one. But we don't know exactly what happened. What was happening with the research and the experiments? What went wrong? How was Huggy Wuggy created and why? Where did all the staff members go? Were they put into dolls? Were they murdered? Did Huggy just murder them? We don't see any bodies in the factory, we only see toy bodies, so I'm not sure about that one. But what were these experiments trying to do? I think they were probably trying to make the most realistic and lifelike toys, and again, I think they went just one step too far with that idea, and I think this is what happened. The lines of science were blurred to the point where something went drastically wrong. Toys got just a little bit too lifelike. Really, this game is just becoming the darkest version of Toy Story, isn't it? But either way, I really hope we figure out what happened in this factory. My biggest guess is whenever we are allowed into the innovation wing, that is where we're going to find out exactly what happened. After all, innovation is key. Thank you, science. So those are just some of the burning questions that I really want to know in future chapters. If you have any of your own questions that you really need to know, let me know down in the comments below, and perhaps I'll make another video about it, or perhaps in future videos we'll explore those questions in a bit more depth. Hopefully we'll find out all of these things in chapter 2 and beyond. I cannot wait for the next chapter, and I cannot wait to find out what exactly happened in this factory. But right now, I am just in mystery mode, and I'm enjoying the process. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a like and consider subscribing. I make lots of horror gaming content on this channel where we talk about theories, we make lore videos, and occasional gameplay as well. So if you like the sound of that, don't forget to click subscribe, and if you really like it, click the notification bell as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.